All right, so this is going to be take two. I just recorded a 20-minute video with the spot focus on accidentally. I think I hit the back of the screen when I was adjusting the camera, so I wasn't in focus the entire time. So we're going to make a little bit of a dumbed down version of this because that sucks. So hello, my name is Hunter. Welcome to my channel. This is like the first little sit down kind of like talk about photo stuff that I'm doing. I'm going to see if it works out. If I like it, I'll continue to do stuff like this. I'm testing out my, I got a new Zoom H1 in handy recorder, and I wanted to see how the audio sounded. I think it sounds really good. I actually listened to a little bit of the last take. So this is my second take on this device. Still messing with the settings, seeing what is best, but we're going to see how it works. So what's up? Welcome to the channel. The Canon R5 and R6 have been all the hype of the photo world lately, and most people haven't been able to get their hands on one and like test it out, feel it. The only person I actually saw on YouTube who really had one was DP Review and Peter McKinnon. I also got to get my hands on one because I work at a camera store and we got a few test units. I'm like one of the only people that I know in the world who has been able to play with the cameras. So I thought I would give you guys my thoughts. I'm going to run through the specs just a little bit, but you can look all that stuff up. I'm not going to really talk about it too much. So here we go. The R5 and R6, Canon's two new mirrorless cameras that are technically released, but they're, you're going to have to order them. They're going to be on back order for months because there's a huge demand for these cameras. But to start out, so the R5 is what Canon really pushed and what everybody was talking about. And then near a little bit closer to the release date, they said, hey, we have the Canon R6 coming out with the R5 too. So the R6 is basically like a dumbed down version of the R5, but still with most of the same features. Honestly, I think if I were to buy one, I would get the R6. The R6 has almost all of the same features as the R5, but it doesn't have 8K video, and it also has a smaller sensor. Still full frame, but smaller megapixel count. So the R5 runs on a 45 megapixel sensor, while the R6 runs on a 20 megapixel sensor. And to touch on that really quick, I had a lot of people complaining, and I saw a lot of complaints online of like, why would they put only a 20 megapixel sensor in that camera? That's not enough for a professional camera. How could Canon do this? That 20 megapixel sensor is pretty much the same one they had in their 1DX Mark III, which if you don't know what that is their like giant body flagship camera from Canon. Flagship DSLR, the one that every sports shooter wants. It's like a $5,000 body. That camera is a 20 megapixel camera. So that being said, anybody who says a 20 megapixel camera is not a professional camera, you are an idiot. You don't know what you're talking about, and you are somebody who for some reason thinks megapixels mean everything when it comes to a professional camera. I like the 20 megapixels. I wish it was 24, but I don't think that it's a bad move. I think 20 is going to be a great sensor, great in low light, and it's still going to get great results. I shoot on a 24 megapixel camera currently, and the quality is phenomenal. I don't know how you feel about the quality on this video, but this is a 24 megapixel sensor. I shoot all my photos on a 24 megapixel sensor, and quality is phenomenal. I can still zoom in a ton if I need to. I don't need to. I get my crops right in camera like a professional. Anyway, though, 20 megapixel sensor, so I think that the R6 is going to be better in low light. Beside that, the R6 doesn't do 8K video, the R5 does. And then in terms of like burst rates, how many frames per second it can shoot, the autofocus, the in-body stabilization, everything is almost exactly the same as the R5. So the R5 is going to be retailing for $3,900, while the R6 will be retailing for, I believe, $2,500. That's going to be about a $1,400 difference in these cameras, and the only thing you're losing really is a 45 megapixel sensor and 8K video. So my computer would kill itself if I tried to edit 8K video on it. It doesn't even do that good at 4K. I have an older MacBook, so I don't need that. Nobody needs 8K video. You can't even really see 4K like fully with human eyes. that being said, you can, but you're not going to be able to see even all the detail of 8K with human eyes. There's no TVs that run 8K that I know of. You don't need 8K unless you are wanting to crop that video a ton. We'll push the 8K and the talk out of the way, but personally, if I were to buy one of these cameras, which I don't know if I'm going to switch over to Canon or not, but I think that I would probably end up going with the R6, because I'm not rich and I don't have $3,900 for the camera body. Also, you get the stabilization is the exact same in both, and that's really one of the big things that I noticed with these cameras that I loved. I was shooting with the R6 a lot in store when I was testing it out, and I was able to get almost gimbal-like shots handheld out of this camera. The stabilization is phenomenal. Great stabilization. Usually I have to use a gimbal to get steady shots on my Sony, even though I have in-body stabilization on the A7 III. It's not great. It doesn't work as well as I was hoping it would when I bought it. The stabilization in these two cameras is top-notch, phenomenal, stupid great. I was doing, very cinematic video handheld, and I was very happy to see that. Holding both of these cameras, they feel about the same. The bodies even look really similar. I'll show you the pictures I'm looking at right here on DP Review. I just have a few of the specs up so I didn't have to go off the noggin. But they're both very similar. One of the main differences is the R5 has a similar body to the EOS R. And by saying that, I mean there is a mode button instead of a mode dial, and then there is a screen on top of it that shows you all of your settings and such. And then the R6 has a dial for the modes, kind of like the EOS RP, but don't get confused. It is nothing like the RP in terms of like camera specs and quality. The RP is shit. The RP is basically a Canon Rebel camera with a full frame sensor. So an expensive Rebel camera in terms of its like internals, computer, and how it works. So let's get away from the sensors. Stabilization, I said it's up to like 8 EV, so like 8 stops of stabilization, which is phenomenal. Great stabilization. Continuous shooting, both cameras, even the R6, are going to shoot 12 frames per second mechanical, 20 frames per second electronic, so you're not losing anything if you move down to the R6. Like I said, I think the R6 is probably going to end up in most hands. R5 is going to be like the top-notch professionals who really need it, or people who buy it for the hype and then realize they don't even need half of the like the stuff that you're getting with it. One of the main differences, or one of the big differences, the R5 runs on one CF Express card and then one UHS 2 SD card. The R6 runs on 2 UHS 2 cards, SD cards, and honestly, I'd rather run like that. CF Express is expensive, and really the only thing you need that for is if you're recording that 8K video. UHS 2 cards have never been too slow for me. I've been able to do everything I need with those. Plus, I already have a ton. So having 2 UHS 2 card slots is already an upgrade for me, and I'm cool with that. My A7 III only has one UHS 2 card slot and one UHS 1 SD card slot, and that kind of annoys me for when I'm trying to shoot to both cards and also fast. So it'll already be an upgrade getting 2 UHS 2 card slots, so I'm happy with that. I don't need a CF Express card. Don't care too much about that. You're going to be able to shoot 24 raw photos and that's when the buffer will fill up, and that's more than I'm ever going to need. I don't know if you're ever doing like intense GIFs with your camera where you need to shoot at 240 like continuously, but you can do it if you want. Keep that in mind. Another big difference, and I'll speak on this since I kind of saw both of them in person. The R5 has a 5.76 million dot OLED electronic viewfinder with a 2.1 million dot rear LCD screen. Now the R6 only has a 3.68 million dot electronic viewfinder and a 1.68 million dot LCD. The LCD screen on the back is slightly smaller, so I believe that's the one on the R6. It looks like is 3 inches, while I believe the R5 is just like maybe 3.2, 3 point some inches. So a little bit bigger on the R5. Not a big deal. I don't care too much about that. even the R6 with these lower specs in terms of the viewfinder and the screen looks phenomenal. Beautiful colors, beautiful quality. You can see everything perfectly. One big gripe I've had with the A7 III is the screen isn't that great. The EVF is good. Screen isn't that great. So again, even the R6 is an amazing viewfinder and LCD. You don't need the R5 one to get good shots and like be able to see the quality out of it. So again, I'm just trying to reiterate, if you are trying to go back and forth between these cameras and decide which one you want to buy, the R6 is probably going to be well enough for what you need to do. If you have the extra money and you know it's not going to hurt you, get the R5 and just brag about having an 8K camera. But yeah, so the R5 can also do 4K 120, which is really cool, while the R6 can do 4K 60. So that's one of the other differences that you're getting with that R5 instead of the R6. And then I'll touch on something really quick. I heard some rumors about overheating, where you will be able to record 8K for about 20 minutes, and then it's going to overheat. You got to let it cool down for like 20 minutes, and then you get 3 extra minutes of recording after you let it cool down. If that's going to be the case, that's going to be kind of ridiculous. And the 4K was kind of the same. You get like 35 minutes of recording, let it cool down for 15, and then you get 8 extra minutes until you have to let it cool down again. If that's actually how it goes, it's going to be a little bit of a bummer, but you are recording 10-bit 422 video. Depending on if you're shooting C-Log or HDR, however you want to do it, it's going to vary a little bit. But, I think that hopefully will be ironed out like in the long run, but again, we'll see. I didn't know that. So apparently the R6 at 4K 60 has a 1.07 times crop because you're recording at 16:9. It's not even that really a crop. You're getting like a little bit less. It's not like a 1.5 crop. It's 1.07 crop. Let's see here. What else do I need to touch on? Stabilization's great. Body's great. They're using a new battery, a little bit longer life. I touched on the cards, Wi-Fi capability. Oh yeah, so Wi-Fi, the R5, you will get 5 gigahertz connection, while the R6 only has 2.4 gigahertz. I don't ever use that unless I'm using my phone as a monitor, like I'm doing right now, using my phone to monitor the video. That's the only time I use the Wi-Fi. Let's see, anything else I need to touch on? They both have the dual pixel RAW in terms of autofocus. Amazing autofocus. Phenomenal. Best. It is screen 100% coverage on the autofocus. So you get literally corner to corner autofocus points, which is really cool on both cameras. You're not losing that on the R6. Let me close here and just say that I only had the cameras and I was only able to play with them for like 2 days. They're both going to be phenomenal game changers in the mirrorless world. I think that the R5 is going to be one of the best ones out there for a while. Finally, like kind of beating out Sony, as much as I hate to say it. But the R6 is also going to be a phenomenal camera, beating out a lot of Sony cameras and other brands. Nikon, you're falling behind. But overall, the hype is real. These cameras are phenomenal. They are going to blow out pretty much every other camera in terms of features. I'm hoping Sony comes out with like an A7 IV that kind of counteracts, beats out the R6. The R6 is going to be kind of like an A7 III competitor, while the R5 is going to be an A7 R4 competitor. But doesn't mean that you're going to have a crappy camera if you don't switch. They're going to be phenomenal. You will be happy with them, but there are going to be a few caveats in terms of overheating and such that are going to have to be ironed out. I'm going to leave it there. Both cameras are great. I got a hands-on, like I said, and I think that they're both going to be hits. I think they're both going to be phenomenal and, very good devices. But we're just going to have to see what happens when people, hundreds and thousands of people start getting their hands on these. What issues come up that everyone's experiencing, what little small features we didn't see that everyone's going to find out. We're going to have to see what happens when they actually get in the hands of consumers. So I'm going to leave it there. If you have any comments about these cameras or questions, I can try to answer them if you put them in the comments. Like I said, I did get a hands-on, so I have a little bit more experience than a lot of people in terms of using these cameras. So just let me know if you have any questions or concerns. Give me a like down below. Let me know if you liked this type of video, and I can do more of these. This is the first like sit down, talking to a microphone, just chat about something. So yeah, I will see you guys in the next one. Stay safe, stay happy, wear a freaking mask, because nobody wants to do that for some reason in Indiana. Wear a mask, save lives. I will see you next time. Have a wonderful day.